Ever wondered which nations are actually walking the walk when it comes to environmental sustainability? While most countries talk a big game about going green, some are genuinely transforming their economies and societies to protect our planet. Take Estonia, for example. This small Baltic nation has slashed greenhouse gas emissions by a whopping 40% in just a decade. Not bad for a country most people couldn't find on a map. Today, we're counting down the 10 cleanest countries on Earth, the places that are setting the environmental gold standard while the rest of us are still arguing about whether plastic straws are the real problem. These sustainability champions aren't just making token gestures. They're revolutionizing energy production, transforming waste management, and rethinking how humans can live in harmony with nature. Let's discover which nations are truly leading the charge toward a cleaner future. The answers might surprise you. 10. United Kingdom. The UK might be famous for its rainy weather and royal drama, but it's quietly become an environmental standout in recent years. This island nation has dramatically pivoted toward renewable energy, particularly offshore wind power, where it's become a global leader. The UK's sprawling wind farms in the North Sea have become a symbol of its commitment to cleaner energy. What's particularly impressive is how the UK has managed this transition while simultaneously managing a complex waste stream from its densely populated urban centers. British recycling systems have evolved significantly, with household separation practices becoming increasingly sophisticated. The country that once earned the nickname the Dirty Man of Europe during its industrial heyday has undergone quite the environmental makeover. Conservation efforts across the British countryside have also helped maintain biodiversity, with protected areas and wildlife reserves creating green corridors throughout the nation. Meanwhile, the tourism sector has begun embracing sustainability practices, with eco-friendly accommodations and experiences gaining popularity from Scotland to Cornwall. But can a former industrial powerhouse with centuries of environmental exploitation behind it truly transform into a green leader? And just how much greener could the next country on our list be to edge out the UK? 9. Sweden. Sweden might make you think of IKEA furniture and catchy pop music, but this Scandinavian nation deserves recognition for something far more important: turning trash into treasure. Sweden has perfected the art of waste-to-energy conversion, with less than 1% of household waste ending up in landfills. In fact, they're so good at it that they actually import waste from other countries to keep their energy recovery plants running. The Swedes have embraced renewable energy with characteristic efficiency, leveraging their abundant water resources for hydroelectric power, while also investing heavily in wind. What makes Sweden's approach unique is how deeply sustainability is woven into the national consciousness. Environmental education starts young, and eco-friendly practices are simply considered normal behavior rather than special efforts. Perhaps most impressive is Sweden's long-term vision. While many countries set vague environmental goals for some distant future, Sweden has implemented concrete policies with measurable impacts, from carbon taxes to green building standards. The result is a society where sustainability isn't just a government initiative. It's a way of life embraced from individual households to major corporations. While Sweden has set the bar high with its waste management revolution, our next country takes clean living to spectacular new heights with breathtaking natural landscapes protected by forward-thinking policies. How does a nation balance energy production with preserving some of the world's most stunning scenery? 8. Norway. Norway gives us serious environmental envy with its postcard-perfect fjords, crystal-clear air, and commitment to preserving natural beauty while still maintaining a high standard of living. This Scandinavian powerhouse has mastered the art of hydroelectric power, with nearly 95% of its electricity coming from renewable sources. Talk about making the most of all that rainfall and mountainous terrain. But Norway's green credentials don't stop at energy production. The country has embraced electric vehicles like nowhere else on Earth, with EVs now accounting for over 80% of new car sales. Drive through Oslo, and you'll see more Teslas than in Silicon Valley, along with impressive charging infrastructure that makes range anxiety a non-issue. What's particularly noteworthy is how Norway has used its massive oil wealth, Yes, ironically, Norway is a major petroleum producer to fund sustainable development and research. The country's sovereign wealth fund has been systematically divesting from fossil fuels while investing in innovative green technologies and conservation efforts. It's like they're saying, we'll sell oil to other countries while showing the world how to live without it. Norway's breathtaking natural environments remain pristine thanks to strict protections and a cultural ethos that reveres the outdoors. But can pristine wilderness and progressive policies compete with our next country's remarkable achievements in sustainable forestry? What happens when a nation treats its trees as its most precious resource? 7. Finland. Finland might be known for saunas and introversion, but its environmental record deserves just as much attention. This northern nation has mastered the art of sustainable forestry in a way few others have matched. With forests covering more than 70% of its land area, Finland has figured out how to harvest timber while actually increasing forest coverage, a remarkable balancing act between industry and conservation. The Finns have a special relationship with their natural world. It's not just about resources, but about identity. This cultural connection translates into practical policies, with some of the world's cleanest air and water systems. Finnish lakes are so pristine you can drink directly from many of them, something unthinkable in most industrialized nations. Environmental education in Finland is exceptional, integrated throughout their world-renowned education system. Young Finns grow up understanding ecological principles not as abstract concepts, but as practical knowledge for everyday life. This grassroots understanding supports broad public buy-in for environmental policies that might face resistance elsewhere. While Finland's forests and lakes represent a more traditional vision of environmental stewardship, our next country shows how even highly industrialized nations can dramatically reduce their ecological footprint. What happens when engineering precision meets environmental passion? Could an industrial powerhouse really transform itself into a clean energy champion? 6. Germany. Germany proves that being an industrial juggernaut doesn't mean sacrificing environmental values. The land of beer, bratwurst, and BMWs has implemented some of the world's strictest environmental regulations while maintaining its status as Europe's economic engine. Germany's Energiewende energy transition policy has transformed how the country powers itself, with renewable sources now providing over 40% of electricity needs. German efficiency extends to waste management, with a recycling system so comprehensive it might give you anxiety the first time you encounter it. With different bins for paper, packaging, glass, sorted by color, compostables, and residual waste, Germans have turned proper sorting into something of a national sport. The result? Landfill use has plummeted while resource recovery has soared. What makes Germany's environmental achievements particularly impressive is that they've occurred alongside, not at the expense of industrial strength. German manufacturers have adapted to strict regulations by becoming more efficient and innovative, often turning environmental challenges into competitive advantages in global markets. The country has also made significant investments in biodiversity protection, with restoration projects helping wildlife return to areas once dominated by industry. But for all Germany's green achievements on the mainland, our next entry shows how sustainability can thrive in one of the most challenging environments of all, a densely packed urban island with virtually no natural resources. How does a concrete jungle become an environmental leader? 5. Singapore. Singapore defies every expectation about what an environmental success story should look like. This tiny city-state, with practically zero natural resources and one of the highest population densities on Earth, has transformed itself into a model of urban sustainability. Singapore proves that concrete jungles can indeed be green, literally and figuratively. The Garden City nickname is well-earned, with vegetation incorporated into virtually every aspect of urban design. Singapore's extraordinary vertical gardens, like those at Gardens by the Bay, aren't just Instagram bait. They're functioning ecosystems that help cool the city, improve air quality, and provide wildlife habitat in an ultra-urban environment. Singapore's approach to cleanliness is legendary, and yes, the chewing gum ban is real, but its environmental management goes far beyond spotless streets. The nation has pioneered water recycling technology so advanced they can turn sewage into clean drinking water. They call it NE-water, clever marketing for recycled toilet water. With almost no natural freshwater sources, Singapore has transformed a critical vulnerability into a showcase of innovation. Smart urban planning has made Singapore one of the few major cities where private car ownership is genuinely optional rather than necessary. An efficient public transit system, coupled with steep taxes and fees on private vehicles, has created a functional city that doesn't depend on everyone having their own car. Singapore shows how concentrated urban living can actually be more sustainable than sprawl when properly designed. But can similar principles work on the scale of a continental nation? Our next country spans from Atlantic to Pacific, with everything from dense cities to vast wilderness. How does size affect environmental performance? 4. United States. Surprised to see the USA on this list? You're not alone. The United States isn't usually associated with environmental leadership these days, yet America has made remarkable progress in specific areas that often goes unrecognized internationally. While federal policy swings wildly depending on who occupies the White House, state-level initiatives and private sector innovation have driven significant positive change. Renewable energy development in the U.S. has exploded, with solar and wind capacity growing at rates that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. States like California and Texas, yes, oil-loving Texas, have become renewable energy powerhouses, with wind farms stretching across the plains and solar arrays carpeting the deserts. American technological innovation has helped drive down clean energy costs worldwide. The U.S. maintains an extensive system of national parks and protected areas that preserve spectacular landscapes and critical habitats. From Yellowstone to the Everglades, these conservation zones represent an environmental achievement that other nations still strive to emulate. The American conservation model, despite its imperfections, has protected millions of acres from development. Despite its massive industrial base and consumer economy, the U.S. has made significant strides in reducing certain emissions and improving water quality compared to historical levels. The Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act, though constantly under political pressure, have nonetheless delivered measurable environmental improvements over the past half-century. America's environmental record remains deeply contradictory, exceptional achievements alongside glaring failures. But as we move to our third cleanest country, we'll see how another nation with vast wilderness areas has taken a different approach to balancing development with conservation. What happens when environmental protection becomes a national brand? 3. Australia. Down Under has stepped up when it comes to environmental protection, particularly in conservation efforts that preserve its unique ecosystems. Australia hosts some of the world's most distinctive wildlife and landscapes, from the Great Barrier Reef to the outback, and has increasingly recognized its responsibility as steward of these irreplaceable natural wonders. Australia has embraced solar power with enthusiasm fitting for the sunburned country, becoming a global leader in residential solar adoption. In some Australian suburbs, you'll find solar panels on more than half the rooftops, creating distributed energy networks that reduce strain on the grid during the intense summer heat. The continent's isolated evolution has made biosecurity a top environmental priority, with strict controls on what plants, animals, and even foods can enter the country. While these measures might frustrate some travelers, no, you cannot bring that apple through customs. They protect ecosystems that evolved in isolation for millions of years from potentially devastating invasive species. Conservation efforts have expanded significantly, with indigenous land management practices increasingly recognized and incorporated into environmental approaches. Traditional ecological knowledge, developed over tens of thousands of years of continuous habitation, is now valued alongside Western scientific methods in managing Australia's diverse landscapes. While Australia continues wrestling with the challenges of coal exports and climate policy, its concrete achievements in conservation and renewable energy adoption have elevated its environmental standing. But our next country takes a radically different approach, showing how even a tiny European nation can make an outsized environmental impact. What happens when a wealthy country decides to make sustainability accessible to everyone? 2. Luxembourg. Luxembourg might be smaller than Rhode Island, but this tiny European duchy punches way above its weight class in environmental leadership. This wealthy nation has transformed itself from an industrial steel producer into a green finance hub with environmental protection woven into its national identity. Over 55% of Luxembourg's territory falls under environmental protection or agricultural use, preserving green spaces in one of Europe's most densely populated regions. In 2020, Luxembourg became the first country in the world to make all public transportation completely free nationwide. This revolutionary policy removed financial barriers to sustainable transport choices, making it easier for residents and the country's many cross-border workers to leave their cars at home. The result has been reduced traffic congestion and lower emissions in this compact nation. The country has embraced eco-friendly urban planning, with green spaces integrated throughout its cities and towns. Luxembourg City features extensive parks, urban forests, and green corridors that provide habitat for wildlife while improving quality of life for residents. New developments must meet strict sustainability standards, ensuring the country's growth doesn't compromise its environmental goals. Luxembourg consistently ranks among the best in the world for drinking water quality and sanitation, with sophisticated treatment systems and strict protection of water sources. The country's small size has become an advantage, allowing for more coordinated environmental management across its entire territory. This tiny nation proves that wealth and sustainability can go hand in hand when the political will exists to make environmental protection a priority. But our top country shows that even nations with challenging environmental histories can transform themselves through innovation and commitment. What happens when a former Soviet republic decides to become a green pioneer? 1. Estonia. Estonia tops our list as the world's cleanest country, demonstrating one of the most remarkable environmental turnarounds in recent history. This small Baltic nation inherited severe environmental problems after Soviet occupation, polluted industrial sites, inefficient energy systems, and degraded natural areas. Yet in just one generation, Estonia has transformed itself into an environmental leader through digital innovation and bold policy choices. The headline achievement is Estonia's astonishing 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions over the past decade. This wasn't accomplished through creative accounting or by outsourcing dirty industries. It represents genuine structural change in how the country produces and consumes energy. Estonia has pivoted away from polluting oil shale toward wind, biomass, and solar power at a pace few thought possible. Estonia's reputation as a digital society extends to environmental management, with sophisticated monitoring systems tracking everything from air quality to forest health in real time. This data-driven approach enables quicker responses to environmental issues and greater public accountability. Estonians can literally check their phones to see how clean their air is or how their local forests are doing. Waste management in Estonia has been revolutionized, with advanced sorting systems and producer responsibility schemes dramatically reducing landfill use. The country has embraced circular economy principles, finding ways to reuse and recycle materials that would once have become pollution. Estonia proves that environmental leadership doesn't require centuries of wealth or perfect geography. It needs innovation, political commitment, and public engagement. This former Soviet republic now teaches environmental lessons to nations far larger and wealthier. So there you have it, the world's 10 cleanest countries, each showing different paths toward environmental sustainability. From Estonia's digital transformation to Australia's conservation efforts, Luxembourg's free public transport to Germany's industrial efficiency, these nations demonstrate that clean environments and modern economies can coexist. Which of these countries surprised you the most? Whether you're planning your next eco-friendly vacation or looking for environmental policies worth adopting in your own community, these sustainability leaders offer valuable insights into creating a cleaner future. Let us know in the comments which country's environmental approach you find most inspiring.